This is a very unusual looking machine. It's a Canadian Berliner gramophone. After Berliner sold his patents to Eldridge Johnson in the US because of patent law infringements and fights that were going on in the courts, he decided to keep his patents in Canada and start marketing machines and building them in Canada. And this is one of the more unusual ones from the early days of his company. It's the Model E, or sometimes it's sold as the Model R when it came in a traveling case in the early days. For obvious reasons, this machine is also referred to as the pyramid model machine, and is quite sought after because of its unusual shape, being that it seems to be almost all molding and no cabinet. What's nice about this machine is it's a little bit more decorated than the Canadian Berliner trademark or Model A. And the parts of it are anodized. You can see here when we get a close-up that the plate here is anodized and the support arm is anodized. The one thing you'll notice about Canadian Berliners is the tone arm here is vertical, where on the trademark or the American machine, it was in the horizontal position. So when they built them in Canada, they changed the way they were designing and using the tone arm. On this one, you'll also see that the turntable is 7-inch, but at this time, they were also making 10-inch records, and they wanted to be able to play them on these machines, which is why you see the crank is on the side of the machine instead of like the trademark up here, where it would have interfered with playing a 10-inch record. The reproducer on this one was an upgrade from the normal or common reproducer that Berliner was using in Canada, which looked a little different than the American one. So I'll bring one of those over and show a close-up of the other reproducer. This one was a little bit larger and gave a little bit better sound production. Now that we're close to the machine, you can see the anodized metal top. Very nice. And you can also see the anodized support arm, and even the brake has been anodized. The cabinet is really nice. The finish on these were really good. Here's a close-up look on the ID tag that's on the machine, typical of the Canadian machines. The reproducer on this one, as I mentioned, is not the usual one. It was an upgrade. This is the automatic grand reproducer. And if you look at the decal on the machine, it says Berliner Gramophone as opposed to Victor Talking Machine, which is the identical decal, except that this one says Berliner. Let's take a look at some of the reproducers. This is a typical American reproducer called the J reproducer. So this is a tone arm and reproducer and horn off an American Berliner trademark. And you can see the instructions for using the needle on the tone arm. Here's the Canadian version. As you can see, this one is horizontal. The earliest ones, the tone arms were horizontal, and later they became vertical. This is also the earliest Canadian reproducer. It's very similar to the J reproducer, but slightly different information on the front. Then for a while they were making this, which is referred to as the turret reproducer. And this one's quite rare, as is the other one. This one here is the most common reproducer you'll see on Canadian Berliner gramophones. And then this is the upgrade that we have on this Model E Berliner gramophone. I mentioned that this was also known as a Berliner R when it was shipped in this traveling case. So let's take a look inside one of those traveling cases, because I have one here. This was specifically for Berliner gramophones. Certain models fit in here, and the R definitely fit in here. So let's put it inside, and you can see how it was meant to be packed away. In order to get it in the box, you have to disassemble it a bit. You have to take the reproducer off and the crank, and then there's a slot for the tone arm there. The horn fits in like that, and then on top of that goes the turntable and the support arm. Then, finally, you put the machine in with the support arm. It fits really well in there. It's quite sturdy and well held. You close, oh, and there's a spot for records too. Yep. And then you close that up, and you've got one gramophone packed and ready to go. This is an assortment of typical Berliner records of that period in Canada. They range from a sort of dark brown to a lighter brown. Sometimes they're actually black, and the labels vary slightly from year to year. Here's one that just says gramophone record, where most of them say improved Berliner gramophone. At the center of it is a small metal grommet, which is common on most of these records.